Well, let's continue with the election, and swing voter SMEs have doubled since the last election, with 1 in 5 undecided about which party is best for their business. To get across that, Jon Sutton joining us from ScotPac. He's the Chief Executive. Jon, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, why are SMEs undecided?
It's a really, really tough market out there, given what's going on in the global economy over the last 3 or 4 years, particularly with rising inflation. SMEs are really, really hurting and finding a drag on their cash flows. We're seeing actually record SME insolvencies, record tax debt for SMEs. And I think that SME voters are really undecided at the moment which party to go for that will actually give them some relief. It's double what we saw in the last election, around 11% undecided, to over 20% undecided as we speak at the moment.
Does that surprise you, given the refrain from the coalition, the opposition, is that are you better off now than you were 3 years ago? And most people have said, well, no, we're not. But, I mean, there are mitigated circumstances, obviously, given what we're seeing globally. Perhaps it's out of the control of the government. Nonetheless, clearly Australians are unhappy, and you would think, as you mentioned, small businesses are being hurt the most. So why isn't the coalition then getting their vote?
It's probably something you have to ask the coalition, but the operating environment for SMEs is particularly tough. If you think about, they've had rising fuel prices, increasing labour costs, input costs, insurance is through the roof for most commercial enterprises. They've doubled, tripled in some circumstances, or even higher. And if you throw on top of that the superannuation guarantee is moving from 11.5% to 12%, and the ability for SMEs to eke out price increases for their products and services, it's near impossible. So their margins are being absolutely squeezed. So SMEs are really looking at what either the government or what the opposition will put on the table to make their life a little easier. And let's not forget, SMEs are the engine room, the heart of the Australian economy, and it is very hard for them out there. And that's why they're largely undecided at the moment. If you go back 2 or 3 years ago, there was a 100% tax write-off for equipment finance. That's no longer available.
So what are you finding at ScotPac, and just in terms of the needs of those SMEs at the moment?
Short-term cash preservation, in particular working capital. No doubt the trade war is having an impact for those companies that rely on just-in-time imports. We're certainly hearing that. Freight rates are moving up. People are not sure about what their supply chains are doing. So we're actually seeing a huge increase for import finance across ScotPac. We track really carefully what's happening with insolvencies. There are a lot of small businesses that have been hitting the wall. In fact, SME insolvencies are up some 40% this time last year.
Are many of these businesses holding out for further rate cuts?
Absolutely. And I think if there are, most of the economists are predicting that the RBA will cut rates. Any rate cut relief will absolutely help SMEs going forward. So if there are 2 to 3 rate cuts over the next 6 to 12 months, again, I think that will lead to some confidence back in the SME sector. Also, traditionally what we tend to see is most SMEs put their queue in the rack on their investment decisions whilst ever there's an election on. And we've only got a couple more weeks to go on this election cycle. Once a new government is formed, that tends to put a bit of confidence back into SMEs to be able to make their investment decisions.
Now, on top of that pain that you've mentioned there, also they're facing an issue just as far as ATO payments are concerned, in that they're no longer tax deductible as far as those interest charges.
That's correct. So as of the 1st of July, ATO debt arrangements will no longer be tax deductible. So currently at the moment, the ATO charges around 11% for financing those tax debts. If you lose that tax deductibility, it'll probably take it up to closer to bank card rates. So those SMEs that actually have those tax arrangements really should look at alternate financing for that, and they'll probably get cheaper financing rates because of the competition out there to finance that type of arrangement, and the tax deductibility will actually be gone as of 1st of July.
What about there was a lot of talk about the instant asset write-off, the fact it has been extended by 12 months, but not permanent as such.
Yeah.
What effect does that have?
Look, it actually brings forward some of that investment, and we've seen that in the past where we've had larger asset finance tax deductibility write-off. Again, I think what it will do is a lot of SMEs will make their decision post the election to take advantage of that. It's at a smaller level, and a lot of people have argued that cap be lifted, and I would certainly agree that if they could lift that cap a little further, that will actually drive further investment, much needed investment in the economy, particularly for SMEs.